move into, so you started your own business doing the same
Yeah,
similar thing.
right.
So what made you want to branch off, leaving Weedman to start your own?
That's a great question. That's $1 million question,
Yeah.
right? Something that definitely changed my life and forged the path that I've taken and where I am today.
Yeah, and I'm sure
So,
it's sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
it's a lot different because at Weedman you had the cookie cutter cutout of what you need to
right,
do,
right.
and then you're going on your own where it's like all of a sudden you need to take on all these
It's
tasks.
all your responsibility now.
Right.
Yeah. So, if I kind of continue on where I was, at one point I was wanting to pursue a bachelor's degree at Madison. That was my dream as a kid. And so I had went to that 2 year school, and you were supposed to have guaranteed admission into the bigger schools, the 4 year schools.
Okay.
So my dream was to go to Madison. I wanted to get a business degree there, and I signed a lease there right before COVID. And I think they sent all of their employees home for the first time, pretty much in like human history. It was when people started to work from home
Yeah.
as a new norm. I'm sure there were companies doing it before, but really not common.
Mm-hmm.
So, and part of that, I did not get into the school, but I had already signed a lease because you have to sign the lease about a year in advance in
Uh-huh.
order to secure a spot.
Yeah.
So that's when I moved to Madison, because at that point, I was chasing the dream, but the dream wasn't realized to continue schooling. So that's like when I said I kind of pivoted to the Weedman Madison. There, I did more treatment of the lawns, and when that season finally ended, instead of going back to door to door, because now I'm living on my own, I need to. The door to door was great income, but once you're living on your own, you might need a higher salary than that,
Mm-hmm.
if I could explain it that way.
Right.
So
Okay.
so then I got into the actual sales, the remote sales of the people that were selling those leads that I used to get. So now
Ooh.
I'm really coming 360, because I had door knocked, managed kids. I had been the assistant marketing manager at one point, so I was learning like the marketing aspect of the company.
Yeah.
Then I learned the treatment, and then I finally finished it off with actually the sales and
Wow. Okay.
being on the dialer, taking probably hundreds of calls a day. The dialer would just keep ringing until
Really?
somebody picked up because we had
Okay.
hundreds of leads, and we were calling pretty much all throughout the Midwest and Texas.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't just focused on the Madison area.
No, I mean, you had to learn how to sell in Texas, how to sell in Boise, Idaho, how to sell in Colorado. They're all a little bit different. They have different programs, but it was
Outside
all
of that,
natural
okay.
to me because I had treated the lawns. I understood the process. It was only a little bit different in some of those other places. So,
Gotcha.
that was the last position I held there. I had asked for, as you've seen, the common trend here is I kept asking for more responsibility. And
Yeah.
every time I proved myself right. Like I wanted to back it up with the results that I provided. And
Mm-hmm.
I did. So I felt like I could keep asking for more responsibility. And that's exactly what I did. So I made it known to some of the higher ups, and I had multiple meetings with some of the higher up people, CEOs in Madison and other important people in that business. And I was looking for an opportunity to become a marketing manager or to help start or set up a new branch. And
Okay.
I felt like I was ready for that opportunity. And I think the company potentially wasn't ready to give me that opportunity, especially at my age, being at 19, 20 years old,
Yeah.
which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a big leap from where I was, but I had believed that I had proven myself worthy of that. So
Yeah.
I was asking for this next step, and I was promised that, and it just didn't feel like it was coming. So at that point, I had started to venture into, at least looking for other jobs because I was like, I don't really think I want to go back to school. I was pretty displeased with how that all unfolded. Once again, I'm based off of promises. If you promise
Mm-hmm.
something, you better deliver. So I just don't react good to things that are promised, and then if somebody doesn't hold their end of the bargain, and that's kind of how I felt about the formal education. Is like it was just a change in mindset overall of like this is what we're supposed to do in society, and it doesn't seem like this is my path. And I think I'm a believer in God, and I just don't think that that was my path. It clearly didn't work out.
Hmm.
And I just had a bad taste in my mouth about like the formal education system. And I was starting to really learn like self-education and what that can do for you.
Yeah.
So at that was kind of my breaking point of where I didn't get into the school of my dreams. I'm not being provided the opportunities I want. I'm going to create something on my own. And that's when that creativity I touched on in the beginning really started to take over.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it was at that moment where it's kind of like that's, you might relate to this, that scary moment as an entrepreneur where you get this idea
Hmm.
and there's nobody to tell you whether or not it's going to work. You just got to jump in and try it.
Yeah.
And that was that infinite moment. So I decided to kind of change my mindset. I was kind of developing a list of people that I had worked with, whether I treated their lawns or I sold them programs, all people that I had interacted with and trusted me, knew me, understood me, knew my work ethic.
Hmm.
And I compiled a list of all these people. And what I was actually doing was working with Weedman every day, doing my sales. I would log off the dialer and then I would call my own list of people.
Oh, really?
And that's how I started to grow it from the beginning. And a lot of these people were Weedman customers. I looked into the legality of everything. I called lawyers. I talked to the right people. And marketing to people is completely free trade. I mean, none of these people were in contracts. So there was nothing wrong about what I was doing. And
Interesting.
yeah, so I remember having a day like right when the technician season ended, and I got into the remote sales, and I was starting to get that idea in my head that, hey, I want to do my own thing here. I'm not happy with this anymore.
Hmm.
I'm not being taken as serious as I want to be. I went to the bank, Chase Bank in Madison, and I came in there as a 19-year-old and said, I want to start a business. How do
Yeah.
I start a business bank account? And I remember the look on their faces. They were kind of puzzled by like me asking to do so, because I'm sure that's not a question that they hear every day.
Yeah.
So they walked me through the steps of that, set that up, set up my first merchant account, which allowed me to take credit cards, process credit cards to collect money from these clients.
Okay.
So that's a topic we'll maybe touch on later. Like the business concepts that I say are like the most important is like the first thing you need to establish is how do I get paid? How do
Yeah.
I get money in? That's business right there. So set that up, and then I started to make these calls every night after work. So I was working a full shift, and then I would work until I got tired. I'd go to the gym, make dinner, go to bed, and repeat the cycle. And I did that for months.
And this is when you were still in Madison?
Yeah. So
Okay.
this was like the biggest grind stage of my life, probably,
Yeah.
was this period of life. And I had all the distractions and every reason to be out partying and doing stuff. And I was so focused and I was so dead set on creating this company that nothing around me could ever stop me from doing that.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Can we take a step back and walk through? So did you set up like an LLC or sole proprietorship before going to the bank?
That's a good question. So no, I went to the bank right away.
Okay.
My whole
That was your first step.
That was my first thing. And my whole first year of business, I was technically a sole proprietor. So I had
Okay.
all the liability and the risk for people listening. That's what that means. All that personal liability was under my personal name. I didn't have a blanket of protection.
Yeah.